Good morning. It's a beautiful Friday morning in Washington. It's great Washington weather here. Um, I just am on a walk, man, in my Snuggie, and I wanted to just get on here, man, and just be transparent, say something real, be honest, open, um, and maybe just encourage myself, encourage somebody today, um, with gratitude. And I have I've walked through a lot in my life, as much as I've had success, I've also had heartache, and I've also failed a lot. And one of the things that I failed in is marriage. I've been married twice, and divorced twice, and that's hard for me. I grew up always wanting a family, wanting a wife, want this, long, illustrious marriage, and wanted kids, all these things. And so when I found that the first time, I was excited and wanted to make things work, but I still had things I needed to work through in my life, and baggage that I was carrying around, and things that I needed to just give up to God. And the first marriage didn't work out. And then I move on from that, and I didn't do any of the right things to heal and to take care of myself, and then just jumped into the next marriage. And all the baggage that I carried from childhood into adulthood into my first marriage, and then all the baggage from my first marriage, I just picked all that up and carried that into the next marriage with me. And needless to say, that didn't work out either. But I also want to say that there's grace for that, There's grace for failed marriages. There's grace for not perfect parenting. There's grace for failed businesses. There's grace for bankruptcies. There's grace, and I'm grateful that I've been through some hard things. In James 1, it says to count it all joy when you go through various trials. Because when you go through things, it builds character. And when your character is built enough, it makes you perfect, lacking nothing. And I have to believe that when God inspired those words, when God inspired James to write those words, he knew that I would be standing here over, 2,000 some odd years later, trying to work through the fact that I've been divorced twice, and I haven't been a perfect parent, and I've have failure in my life. He knew that I would be at that place. And so to write words like count it joy when you go through trials, to be thankful when you go through things that are hard, was very difficult for me at first to kind of grasp and wrap my mind around, because it's like, how are you excited about going through hard things? But while you're in it, and you can really give those things over to God, and you can really lean on God. And I don't mean like, walk outside and say, oh, brother, everything's perfect in my life, I'm doing great. I mean, really, when the things get tough and you're in your bed crying in your room because you don't know how you're going to make it the next day, or you can barely get out of bed the next morning, or you don't have space enough in your house to cry because the kids need something, or whoever needs whatever. If you could really come to those points in life, and even in that, say, God, I don't know how this is going to work, and I'm angry at you, or I'm set at you, or you know what? I want to just soothe myself. I don't want to go through all these hard things. Those are the parts in life that I believe that there's grace and God shows up. And not that God doesn't show up any other time, but honestly, how much more would you show up for your kids or a friend knowing they're going through hardship and hard things, And I think that God does the same for us. So I'm grateful to go through some hard things. It doesn't feel good all the time, and there's still some shame and guilt around 2 failed marriages. But on the other side of that, I'm grateful that even though those hard things have happened, they're preparing me for my future, and they're preparing me for the next thing to come up. So if I could leave you with anything, man, just I know times are tough, you know, things are hard, especially in this day and age. And, you know, if you can be grateful, find 5 things, 2 things, 3 things, 1 thing that you're grateful for, and hang on to that. All right. Have a great day, great weekend. We'll talk soon.